Hey guys, it's time for Bible. I hope you warmed up and were able to sing that worship song that I left for you from YouTube. And in Bible, we're jumping into the Passover. We're going to actually get into the details of Passover today. And this is a very important story to the Israelites' history. So there are quite a few details, but it also makes sense that there are details because in our book, it's called God's Special Instructions. They had to follow these specific instructions in order for everything to go right. So if you look in your book on page 90, you can read along as I read that top part. This last plague was to be different from all the others. This plague would come to have special meaning to the Hebrew people. After this plague, Pharaoh would let the people go. This time, God had special instructions to give to the Hebrew people. Until now, God had given Moses and Aaron instructions to be followed. Now all the people of Israel were to listen and obey God's instructions. Look up the following verses and answer the question to see what God wanted them to do. So, before, it was just Moses and Aaron had to do certain things. Now, all of the Israelites, all of the Hebrew people had to do these specific things in order for everything to go perfectly. And these were pretty important things they had to do because this plague was a really bad one. So the first verse we're going to look up is Exodus 12:5. Exodus 12:5 says, "The animal you select must be a 1-year-old male, either a sheep or a goat, with no defects." So those are some of our vocabulary words that we talked about at the beginning of this lesson, that it had to be a 1-year-old male and it had to have no defects. It had to be perfect. So what do you think they need to pick out a special animal, male, perfect for? Well, they were going to sacrifice it, but they had very special instructions for how to sacrifice it. It wasn't going to be the normal, sacrifice this lamb on this altar and your sins are washed away. No, it wasn't going to be like that. This was going to be quite different. But they were going to sacrifice it. So they had to find a perfect boy, 1-year-old animal. So that's our answer. What kind of animal were they to use? So we can say 1-year-old male without defect. So that would be either from the sheep or goats. So they couldn't have a 1-year-old boy horse. They couldn't have a 1-year-old boy turtle. It had to be only a sheep or a goat. 1-year-old boy, no issues. Can't have any special spots, can't have anything wrong with it, had to be perfect. Okay, so our next part says to be without blemish or defect meant that the animal was to be perfect with no marks. Our next verse is Exodus 12:7. What were they to place on the opposite doorposts of their houses? Exodus 12:7 says, "They are to take some of the blood and smear it on the sides and top of the door frames of the houses where they eat the animal." Okay, so they had to actually take the blood from this animal that was being sacrificed, and they had to paint around their door with it. So, what were they to place on the opposite doorposts of their houses? The blood. Wow. Of the blood of the animal. So if you look down at your picture, I'll come back to the directions, but if you look down at your picture, at the bottom of your page, you can see there's this door, and they had to paint the blood here. You can see it in your picture, and here, and here. So they actually had to smear it on those parts of the door. They place the blood on the frame of the door at the top and on the sides. Connect the dots and color inside the lines you draw. This shows how this was a picture of the cross of Jesus. So down here at the bottom, connect all the dots and then color inside the dots. And that will give you a picture of what their doors looked like that night. We will get into more details about what that really meant for them and why that was so important in our next Bible video. So I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.